Hi, I'm Michaela Vergano, and you're here with us on mumandre.wordpress.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Mother's Day card using the Painted Petals stamp set and matching DSP painted blooms. First of all, I'm going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock, cut it 8 inches by 5.5 inches and scored it 4 inches. Using your bone folder, make sure you get a nice crisp fold so that your card will open and close easily. My first layer or mat is using the Painted Blooms DSP. This is cut at 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch. I've used my snail to adhere this to the card base. Oops, there's a bit of fluff there I've pulled off before I've put it on centered and smoothed it over. So next we're going to start at the center of our card and form I guess the centerpiece. What I'm going to use is the 4-frame stamp set, and I need to stamp that twice. So you'll need a piece of Whisper White cardstock that is big enough to take 2 images. One will be our stamped image and coloured, and the other will be a template. So I'm actually using Wild Wasabi, Pacific Point and Rose Red. I'm going to start with the Wild Wasabi and use my blender pen. So you need to squeeze your ink pad together and open it up and check that some of the ink has transferred across onto the lid of the ink pad. Pick up your blender pen and just wipe it through the ink so that you're picking up some of the ink onto the tip. Then you're going to colour all your leaves around one of your images. Don't need to be pedantic, because this image is going to be matched up with the DSP Painted Blooms paper, and that's a really nice mottly effect. So this can be more of a watercolor style technique. I've now moved to the Pacific Point color, and up in the top right hand corner I'm just using the blue to highlight one of the blossoms. Then I move to the Rose Red, and down in the bottom left hand corner is a beautiful rose that I've touched up twice because I wanted it a little bit darker. So now we're going to cut out our coloured image with the decorative label punch, as well as the uncoloured image, which will act as our template for our centerpiece. That will be the last you need of the punch, so you can put that away, even though I didn't do that. You'll need to grab your Stampin' Pierce mat, because we're going to be working with polymer stamps, and they need a good rubber base underneath them to get a clear image stamped. So for the centerpiece, I need a sentiment, and this is going to be a Mother's Day card. So I want the word mother in that frame. I've used the sentiment from the Crazy About You stamp set, the word Mother's Day, and I've masked off the apostrophe, the S and day using sticky tape. Then I've taken my Memento ink and inked up the stamp. What you need to be very careful about and remember is remove that sticky tape before you then stamp the sentiment. Otherwise you're going to end up with a nasty black smudge on your image. I like the clear blocks because I do tend to rush a little bit when I stamp, and often don't put the stamps straight on my blocks. So it's great to be able to see through them and make sure that the image comes out neatly. So the next layer requires Whisper White cardstock cut it 4 by 3 inches, and this again is going to be stamped on using polymer stamps, so you'll need to keep your pierce mat out. Here I take the template, I put a little bit of snail on the back just so that it doesn't move too much on the paper. Center it on your cardstock, and what I'm going to do is use the wild wasabi and the leaves from the Painted Petals stamp set. My aim is to try and build on the leaves and images that are already on the frame. So if you closely have a look up in the top right hand corner, you'll see that you can almost imagine where the leaf lines would extend outside of the frame. Now when I did it the first time, I forgot that there was a tiny little bit of white cardstock outside of the black frame line because of the way that you cut it. So what I found the easiest to do is to actually place where I want to put my leaves, lift up the centerpiece, and then just sort of eyeball it and put the template down. You could use your Stamp-A-Magic, but I just find doing it this way seems to work. It works a bit like starting at the bottom right hand corner and forming an arc all around the card, and you'll see that now as I take off the stamp. I've got, oh, it's gone very slow all of a sudden. I've got a nice archway. I've taken the leaves stamp now and added it into the spaces between the twigs. Fits really nicely. You could use a second colour, but I've stayed with the wild wasabi for this particular piece. Pop your template back on or your image and see if there's any spots where you think you've left a hole. If you notice up in that top left hand corner, I've added another couple of large leaves because I really felt it was missing something there. So now that I've finished stamping my leaves, I'm going to go to the Pacific Point and stamp the buds. Now I've picked this colour because it obviously matches the Painted Blossoms DSP. Just on the end of each of the vines, twigs, sticks, whatever you want to call it, I've just quickly stamped a few of the buds and just checked I haven't left any without buds. So now it's time to go to the rose red, and what I want is just not too many flowers. So I've picked the stamp that has 2 flower heads on it. I'll stamp it in 3 places: to the right, across on the left hand side, and then in the middle that will take it down the center. That center flower you won't see because it'll be covered by your framed your framed sentiment. So we go back to our card base, and of course I like to finish off the insides of my cards. So while you've got those colors out, just quickly stamp down in the bottom right hand corner a flower and then some leaves to match. Always looks nice to have something on the inside that matches the outside of your card. It's at this point that I happened to stop the video, and when I went back later the colour was a little bit different, so I'm really sorry about that. I've got my centerpiece and my card that goes underneath that, my layering card. I'm going to add it to some rose red cardstock that was cut at 4 1/4 by 3 1/4 inches, just that 1/4 inch bigger than the base. I've taken some Pacific Point, a 1/4 inch gross grain ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap that around the bottom, use my snail to adhere it. Now because I'm going to lift this off the page and add dimensionals, I decided to put a little bit of sticky tape on the back of it to really ensure that that ribbon doesn't come undone if it happens that I don't have a dimensional directly on top of it. So that's what I'm doing just here, stabilizing the ribbon with a little bit of sticky tape. So we just put that up the top. Now I need to place it on the card base itself, and of course, as I mentioned, I'm going to use dimensionals, my Stampin' Up dimensionals for that. One in each corner and one in the middle would be fine, however you like to do it. So center that up onto your card base. Whoops, and make sure it fits nice and neatly with gentle pressure. Now you just need to pick up your centerpiece again, and we'll add dimensionals to the back of that, just so that there is that little bit of extra height on our card. So taking off the backing, we're going to carefully place it on our centerpiece so that where we had originally stamped matches up, making sure that we're really happy with the placement, and then holding it down. Now we're going to add some rhinestones to our centerpiece. Rhinestone basic jewel. I ran out of the little ones, but whatever size, and pop it on your top right hand flower in the centerpiece, a bow down the front to finish it off. And there's your mother card. When we open it up, we've got that pretty flower down the bottom, but we really need a sentiment. So I've gone back to the Painted Petals stamp set and found the amazing sentiment, and I'm going to quickly ink that up with my Memento black ink and pop it in the center of the card. And there we have it. Pop the lid on your Memento ink, and there's our Mother's Day card, and the original one that I did. Inside that one, I had just used some scraps of the DSP to make it a little bit different. I do prefer it in the white. Here's a third one that I did, and instead of DSP paper, I cut the same size mat but out of white cardstock, and then embossed it using the Spring Flowers embossing folder. I also used Rich Raspberry, Daffodil Delight and the Wild Wasabi. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to check out our blog.